I wanted to say some words about some subject matters. Like I said previously in some of the videos, that when I was younger, I lived in North Jersey, and I went to a half-price bookstore in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and they were selling these old metaphysical books, almost pennies on a dollar, and I was buying them up. I was very interested in the subject matter, and particularly with Count Louis Harmon, who was called Chairo, and he was a famous palmist, astrologer, numerologist. He studied a vast amount of different, what I call psychic sciences, and he wrote many, many books, including on topographical palmistry and line palmistry, and he was well known for this. What he would do is he would take a roller with actual ink on it and ink somebody's hand and make a palm print. And the prints were excellent. I guess he would do it several times until they were excellent. And he took all the major celebrities of his period. He was born in the 1800s, and I think he died in 1936, and he was about 70, I believe. And he would take people like Walt Disney. In his books, he had palm prints of Walt Disney, Sarah Bernhardt, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., major actors of the time, people that were World War II generals, particularly in England and some in the United States. And he would analyze the palm prints in his book and tell you why he's saying what he said. And it was an actual real study of all the lines in the palm, what the variations of the lifeline, the headline, the fate line, and on and on. The intuitive lines in the hand, the marriage lines, the different fingers, and the planets that they're represented. And by the time you were done, you were actually able to really analyze a hand, and you could also pick out the major events in somebody's life with the palm. And throughout the years, I met palmists, and I would say, well, don't you find this line curious? Oh, I don't know what lines mean. Well, how could you be a palmist and not know what lines mean? And I went to some of what they call gypsy witches. I always called them Mama Lagooch. And I would say, well, what are the lines? I don't know lines. My grandmother, she told me what to say. You don't know lines and you're a palmist? Really? So I started doing palmistry, and I started at Menlo Park Mall at a psychic fair, which was the first one. And I had brought a lighted magnifying glass, and people were coming from all over to see me. It was amazing, but I also did cards, and I combined it with a few other things, because I studied heavy psychic science that I thought was worthwhile for me. And what happened was people were coming from all over. And as I met different palmists, quote unquote, throughout the years, these people never really studied anything. But the point is that the public didn't notice, and they knew 2% more than the public about the hand. And if somebody knows 2% more than you do, then they're well educated. And it was a sad thing. And then with the numbers, it was the same way. I met some very good numerologists along the way. They had their own methods. I had my own methods. And I wound up sessioning with the lady that wrote the book on graphology, which is name analysis. And then I experimented with it, and I made it my own. And so I knew astronumerology, palmistry, handwriting analysis, name analysis, the kai shi, the abracadabra. And after a while, through these systems, you could really divine somebody's life. but you really had to study them. And a lot of practitioners really don't study. They really know very little about the subject matters that they're supposed to be experts. And I studied it by the hour. What I admired about Chairo, as an example, was he really understood the palm and the hands and the beginning and ending of the line and what it meant and where it started and what happens if there's an island or an X on the line. And he could really analyze somebody's life just by looking at their hand. And it was a real study. It was a study that took years. And I spent years studying it myself. After a while, I got tired of doing it because I was doing it all day long. And to stare into a palm all day, various palms all day long, was exhausting. I imagine how a diamond cutter feels staring at a little rock and trying to cut it all day long. But I just wanted to add these explanations because I don't think I ever said this before. And then I would ask people to make photocopies of their hand. And that was a bad experience because when you look at your palm, you could see certain lines in your hands for sure. And if you make a photocopy and those lines aren't on the photocopier, it should be a no-brainer. I mean, what you see in your hand, you should see on the paper. And the problem was people used to bring me copies that you couldn't see 90% of the lines, honestly. I would put Vaseline or olive oil or make my palm wet or whatever it took to make the lines come out, on a copying machine. I'm sure it could be done properly, where you would really be able to see the lines. And it's a worthwhile study. I just wanted to add this because I did study it for years and years. I did thousands of people to the point of exhaustion. But I've met one or two palmists when I was traveling and working with psychics that actually studied the hand. The rest of them were what I call winging it, unfortunately.